My name is Brenna Gold. This is for a second grade class, and this is contextualized vocabulary. So do you guys remember yesterday reading the passage called Marine Mammals? Yeah, and we talked about the different kind of marine or mammals that can be found underwater, but it primarily focused on the blue whale. Yeah. So when we were reading that yesterday, I noticed there were about 4 words that we struggled with a little. So I pulled them, and they're going to be our target vocabulary words for the week. So are you guys ready to begin? Yes. So our first word is impossible. So I'm going to write this up here. Impossible. So let me get the story out here and take one. Pass it around. Thank you. Do we all have one? Okay. So it's the last sentence of the first paragraph. That's what I'm reading. And it said, however, it is impossible for them to stay below the surface for an indefinite amount of time. So I want to figure out the definition or what this word means to help me understand this sentence. So I'm going to use context clues. So context clues, as we remember, are hints that the author gives to help define a difficult word within the book or the sentence. And the hints may appear in the same sentence or the sentence following it. So, in this sentence, I'm going to read it again. However, it is impossible for them to stay below the surface for an indefinite amount of time. Now, I could use the word indefinite, but that's also a big word, so I might not know what that means. So let's look at the next sentence and see what it says. They regularly need to resurface to get air. So they need to come back up from underwater to get air. So they can't stay underwater, right? They're not fish. They can't live underwater forever. They need to come up and get air like we do. So impossible, if I'm using the context clues, would mean that it can't be done or won't occur or even exist. So in this context, it means that it can't be done because they can't stay underwater. They need air. So an example from the text would be the marine mammals can't stay below the surface of the water. They have to come up and get air, right? Does that make sense? So impossible, I forgot. I didn't make you guys say it. Whoops. So impossible, that's the word. Can we say impossible? Impossible. Good job. And what does it mean? Yes, that something can't be done. So, why do you think it's impossible for the marine mammals to stay underwater? Do you know? Yes, they need air. Because it said in the first sentence that they live in the ocean, but they can't breathe underwater. So good job. And what does impossible mean? Something that can't be done. Good job. So our next target word, I'll put this off to the side. Next target word is tiny. So tiny. Can we say that word? Tiny. One more time. Yes, good job. And I'm going to go back to the text. And it is in the third paragraph, the third sentence, and it says, it lives on an infinite number of extremely tiny creatures. Yes. So, to that sentence, we're going to use the context clues, remember, and those are hints that help us define difficult words. So, were there any hints in that sentence? Infinite would be, yep, we've used that word in math, right? Yep, because that's never ending. But that doesn't really help us with the word tiny. So let's read the next sentence. You might think that it hunts big game in the sea, but you would be incorrect. So you would think that the whales would hunt bigger animals because they're big, but that'd be incorrect. So what's the opposite of big? Small. Good job. So tiny. So if something's tiny, then that means it's very, very, very small. And in this, they're saying that the whale, the blue whale, lives on an infinite number of extremely small creatures. And extremely is it's just a bigger word for very. So it lives on very small creatures. Can we think of some small creatures? Yeah, goldfish are really small. Puppies are really small. Good job, guys. So, what does tiny mean? Very small. Good job. Now, is there something that you see every day that's very small or tiny? Yeah, a baby. A baby is a very small human. Good job. Yes, Chris, you did just get a puppy. That'd be small compared to your giant husky. Yeah, good job, guys. So, now I would like your guys' help to figure out our third target word. Are you ready? So our third target word is, I'm going to go back, rumble. So I'm going to say it. Rumble. Can you guys say it? Rumble. Good job. And that we're going to look at, and you're going to help me read. It is the fourth sentence in the second paragraph. So you guys see it? It starts where it. Okay, ready? We're going to read it together. It makes a deep, resounding rumble that has no comparison on land or sea. Now, I think in this sentence there are some context clues. Can we figure it out? Yeah. So it says resounding right before the word. And we know that resounding means it repeats, because we've had this word before, right? Yeah, and it repeats. Yeah, so this is a context clue. Good job. There is one more. Yes, Brooke. Deep. So it would be a deep resounding or repeating. What? What would be a deep and resounding? Would it be like a noise? Yeah. So, thunder is an example of a rumble because it makes that deep, continuous, or repeating sound. So like during a storm, there's like thunder happens reoccurring, so like happens repeatedly. And it makes like this really deep sound. Yeah, so rumble is just a deep, continuous noise or sound. So, What would be an example from the text? Yeah, the blue whale makes a deep, continuous noise, and it also says that it has no comparison on land or sea, so they must make a lot of noise. You've heard a whale on TV? Yeah, on the Animal Planet, you've heard whale sounds. Wow, that's cool. Is it deep? Does that make a deep noise? Yeah. So what are some other sounds that rumble? Yeah, there's thunder. A bass drum, if you hit a bass drum, that's a deep noise. Yeah. Good job, guys. So you guys kind of understand what we're doing? We're using the context clues to help us figure out our target word definitions. And then we're using examples from the text to help us understand the definition. And then we're just asking questions that help us put the word into everyday, right? So, our fourth word is unusual. What's the word? Unusual. Yep. So, the word is the first sentence. It's in the first sentence of the third paragraph. And I want you guys to break into your elbow partners and spread out across the room. And you guys are going to use the context clues that I've been showing you how to use to figure out the definition. Okay? Does that make sense? And then you're gonna create an example of it using the text, and then you guys will each ask each other what you might find unusual, and the question's on the backboard if you guys forget. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, and I want Jacob, Jeremy, and Gracie back here with me. Okay, we're gonna go to the kidney table. Okay, so you guys may break into groups. And remember, it's the first paragraph of the third, or it's the first sentence of the third paragraph. Does that make sense? Okay. So, Jacob, Jeremy, and Gracie. Before we start, I have some picture cards that I want to use with you. So, the first card is a picture of the whale just right under the surface. Do you remember what word that goes with? Impossible. Good job. And see, it's written on the back. Impossible. Now, do you remember what impossible means? Yeah, something that can't be done. Or something that maybe someone can't do. Right. Good job. Okay. The next question, or the next word, or the next picture is of a little baby. Do you remember what word that goes with? Tiny. Good job. And what does tiny mean? Small. Or very small. Don't forget that, very small. Okay, good job, guys. And then our last picture card right now is a picture of a storm cloud, and it has like little music notes coming out because that's a signal that it's making noise. Do we remember what that word is? Rumble. And what does rumble mean? Right, a deep, continuous noise. Good job. And I'll be using these periodically throughout the week to help us learn. And on the back, don't forget, on the back of the picture there's Rumble. And then tomorrow I'm going to introduce little cards that have the definition, and we're going to match them. Okay, you're going to match the definition to the picture. Okay, but that's tomorrow. So, our word is unusual. Say it. Unusual. Good job. So, we're going to read the sentence, the first sentence of the third paragraph together. You guys ready? The blue whale requires an unusual amount of food each day. So if they require an unusual amount, does that help? I use context clues, remember? Hey class, let's come back together. Are we using the context clue, like using context clues to help us figure out the definition? I see some head nods, some and some no's. Okay, so can someone remind me what context clues are? They are hints. So context clues are hints that the author gives the reader to help them define a difficult word within the book. And a lot of the hints appear in the sentence itself or the sentence that comes next. So let's read the first sentence of the third line where the word unusual is together. So the blue whale requires an unusual amount of food each day. So an unusual amount. Would that be like a normal amount? No. So they must eat like an odd amount, right? Yeah. Are you guys getting how to use context clues? Or do you want to do a different word? And we'll come back to this one. Okay, let's do the word tiny again. So, the sentence was, it lives on an infinite number of extremely tiny creatures. And there wasn't any context clues in that sentence to help us, right? So we read the following sentence, remember? And it was, you might think that it hunts big game in the sea, but you would be incorrect. So we would think that it eats big animals in the sea, but we'd be wrong. So if we're wrong about big animals, so we're going to think of the opposite. So it's the opposite of big. Small, right? So tiny is another word for being small. Right? And remember we talked about like puppies are small compared to big dogs. Babies are small compared to adults, right? So they're tiny. So, does that make sense? So now you guys are going to walk me on how to do the context clues for unusual, okay? So, read the sentence. The blue whale requires an unusual amount of food each day. Yeah, so it would be, we're looking at amount, and it requires, so it requires strange amount. Good job. So, and better definition for unusual would be like it doesn't happen all the time or strange. So in this case, the whale eats a strange amount of food each day. Does that make sense? Yeah. So what's the word? Unusual. And what does it mean? Strange or doesn't happen. Good job. Okay. So now you guys will go back to your partners and you're going to think of an example from the text and you're going to ask each other, what might you find unusual? Okay. Are you three ready? So can we think of an example, like a sentence that goes along with the text for the word unusual? Yeah, so the blue whale does eat a strange amount of food each day. Good job. And what might you find unusual? So, Jacob, what would you find unusual? Your mom cooking? Does she not cook? Oh. Jeremy? A monster in your basement? That might be strange. Gracie? You vacuuming. Do you know a vacuum? Oh, older brother does. Oh, so it might be unusual to see you vacuum, or it might be strange or out of the ordinary. Yeah. Okay, did everyone have a chance to ask your partner what they might find unusual? Yeah? Okay. Now, for you guys on your own are going to read the marine mammals, and you can either do it silently or you can whisper read it to yourself. So you're going to read this whole passage, and then on each of your things, I did go through and highlight the words. So then you're going to go back and look at the sentences with our 4 target words, and I'll leave them up here. And remember, they're impossible. Say it. Impossible. Tiny. Say it. Tiny. Rumble, yep. And unusual. Good job. So you guys are going to create a sentence for each of those words that go along with the story. So for tiny, you might say blue whales eat tiny little fish called krill. Because that goes along with the story, right? Yeah. And it helps you know that they eat tiny little fish named krill. So does that make sense, guys? Yep, and then when you're done, you'll just turn them into the basket. Okay, you guys ready? Go.